What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and you guys smash that like button way above 50 likes to unlock the test hand combo video for the branded DarkWorld profile I showed you guys the other day. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to do 2 test hands going first, 2 test hands going second, and I'll explain everything as I do it and kind of where the synergies lie. At the end of the video as well, I'll also show you a specific combo and how you can kind of utilize the 2 engines to not only loop your hand resource, but ultimately as well set you up for like double fusion plays of Grepher plus Mirror Jade, meaning that you no longer need to worry about an evenly matched, you no longer really need to worry about a Nibiru, and that's kind of the little differences that this version will have over a normal version as well. So after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our first test hand going first will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, okay, that's a very interesting hand. But even with an interesting hand like this, we can actually still make some very cool plays because the branded opening is pretty much the biggest bridge between branded and DarkWorld because they discard it as effect, which is really, really nice. So what I mean by that is we'll start off with, of course, branded opening. You will then discard Snow as part of the effect. And you'll resolve the branded opening by getting you into an Aluba. You can then chain block with your Aluba, so you can go chain link 1 this, chain link 2 Snow, or vice versa, whichever one you want to protect the most. Now, obviously, I don't have branded fusion, so the first one that I am going to go for is, of course, going to be branded fusion. Now, off the back of Snow, it's entirely up to you on what you want to go for. The branded fusion itself will actually set up your Grepher or Rainbow in the graveyard for you to utilize. Off the back of that as well, if you want to, Snow can ultimately unlock you into an Ascension. It can unlock you into a Gentle, which will give you an additional random draw. And I'll show you how you can do that in a minute as well. Or you can go into like pretty much any DarkWorld. Now, I haven't got another DarkWorld in the hand for a Cerulli play, so that's not really, you know, maximized potential. So we'll go for the Genta. We'll shuffle this up. Actually, we'll activate the Genta first. Genta will then search me out the second gate. Obviously, you don't want to be seeing gate in the hand, in my opinion, because Genta can just be looped very easily. You don't want to see it in the hand. Now, I know straight away you guys are going to be like, what? You've got no other fiends in the hand? Well, actually, thank you very much. If you activate Patchwork, you do get a fiend, and you get a fiend that could trigger if you really, really want to. Now, again, you don't really want to be seeing Patchwork in the hand, which is why I play it at 2-1-1. But if I was to play a secondary Patchwork, I could deck fin 1 more time by triggering the effect of Edging Chain as well. So we're going to deck fin first before we activate the first gates of the DarkWorld, and then we're going to shuffle up. Now, the reason I'm saving Branded Fusion is not only am I trying to bait out a hand trap, but off the back of that as well, if I do successfully, like the draws can be an ultimatum, like can be loads of draws that I can possibly want. Whereas Branded Fusion can guarantee to put the Grepher in the graveyard, I can loop the Genta back into the hand, and then that gives me an additional Fiend monster to discard and banish. So I've got plenty of options that way. So we'll start off with the first gates of the DarkWorld. We'll banish the Genta and discard the Edge Chain. We'll draw a random card. Okay. Then you would obviously activate your Genta. The Genta will then summon itself back. Now, in an ideal world, I would then be able to activate the Chain because then the Chain would then search me out the Patchwork. So in a way where we've done it this route, you'd probably do it the other way around, but I don't play 2 Patchworks. That's something that you can definitely do if you want to. Personally, I don't see the need of doubling up on something like that. Now we're at the stage of activating Branded Fusion. So when we activate Branded Fusion, we've got a couple of different routes here. We can go to the Albion route, which pretty much locks your opponent with the Ra. But because I want to try and highlight the DarkWorlds a little bit more, I'm actually going to send Rainbow, and I'm going to send, obviously, Fallen of Albaz. I don't need to search anything off of the back of Tragedy right now, so that's of no use to me. And I don't really need to be sending anything with the Ra. I don't want to do the Ra lock. Now, Memory Carrier is another option as well, because you'd banish it with Ascension. Or you could, in theory, try and banish it with Albion as well. But again, that's entirely up to you. So by sending the Rainbow, obviously there is no effects it is going to trigger because it's not sadly, it's not sent from deck to grave. But we're going to go into Lubellion. We'll then use Lubellion's effect, and I'm actually going to discard the Adlerbioten. Now, you'll find out why we do that in a minute, because it's very important for the Branded in Red play, or an Ascension play should we get there. So we'll discard that, and then we will resolve the effect. So we're going to go for, obviously there's no Grepher. Like if I discarded Grepher, I could go straight into the Grepher Dragon, which would protect me for something like Nibiru or anything like going further forward. Now, I could banish, or I could spin these back to go into an Albion. And the only reason you'd go into an Albion is because it just requires Fauna of Albaz and a Light Monster. And then in doing so, you're then trying to banish the Adlerbyton, and you'll then be trying to banish like any Dark Monster to kind of get you into your Despia plays. So you end the board on an Albion and Despia plays. To me, that's not really worth it. So what you kind of want to be doing on that one is you'll use Lubellion, you'll spin Lubellion, and you'll spin Albaz back to the deck. I don't need Albaz right now, so that's absolutely fine. And this will get you into a Mirror Jade. So Mirror Jade's effect is now live, which is quite nice. There is a nice little bit of synergy as well, as if you normal summon the Genta, and then you activate Mirror Jade's effect to banish the Genta from the field, it can come back, but that's not something you want to be doing. So what we've kind of done here, or the reason of doing this, is we've actually done it to get a DarkWorld into the graveyard, so that I can then loop the Genta back to the hand and summon on the DarkWorld. Now, this is where, obviously, if I had another, if I didn't have the second gate in my hand, I could discard the Genta, search out the second gate. But because I do, it just lets me activate the second gate and then use its effect. Now, we're going to banish a Fiend from the graveyard, so we're going to banish the Edge Imp Chain, because that's of no use to us right now. And we're going to discard the Genta, which will let us draw a random card. Which turns into a Rainbow, which isn't the best, but isn't the worst either, because you can actually trigger it off of Branded Opening. So now it's entirely up to you on where you want to take this. You can go a little bit further. You can utilise by getting into a Branded in red, which is probably what you want to do the most, because that will let you go into a Chimera, that will let you draw more cards, and it will let you go through everything else you need. So, again, not the ideal scenario, but this is just showing you like what an odd hand can kind of get you. So you'd activate Mirror Jade's effect, you'll be banishing the Aluba, sending your Albion. You can then set the Branded Opening, which is quite important actually, because that one's going to trigger a lot of change and a lot of effects during the next turn. So then what you want to do here is you're going to activate the, go to the end phase, you're going to resolve the Albion. The Albion's going to go for the Branded in red, and that's where the Adlerbyton in the graveyard comes in very importantly. So then what you do here, after shuffling up, keeping in mind that with Branded Opening, I can start triggering my DarkWorld cards during my opponent's turn. So if I draw into a Sururi, we're laughing. So we're going to shuffle this up. You're then going to pass your opponent, and then when you feel that you're in a state where activating Branded in red is golden, you'd activate Branded in red, add back the Adlerbyton, fuse the Adlerbyton with the Mirror Jade, and if I'm wanting to pop 2, I go with something else. If I'm wanting to fuse and draw 2, you use the Rainbow in hand. So it's entirely up to you on how you want to do this, but the idea would be that you banish these. Obviously you don't want to be banishing, like if I banish a Genta, then you know you're in dreamland. The idea is that you're going to go into your Guardian Chimera, you're going to resolve Guardian Chimera's effect and Adlerbyton, so you'll be able to reset your Mirror Jade to use its effect again, and you'll draw 2 cards. Branded Open and Branded Fusion. Okay, so it wasn't to the ideal state that we wanted to get to, but keeping in mind as well, by activating Branded Opening again, you can use an additional effect. You still have Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade can then set you up a follow-up for the next turn by sending in a different Albion and anything else you want. So this is just like a basic little play. Nothing too exciting, nothing too extravagant, but it just kind of shows you that the deck can work. And with Gates of the DarkWorld, you can start to cycle through. But it means that if through the Guardian Chimera and the Mirror Jade effect, you're able to hold your opponent off, you've also got the follow-up of the Branded Opening, and you know the ideal scenario is the Branded Opening will discard a DarkWorld card. That's how you kind of move your plays forward to the best degree. But it ultimately means that if your opponent passes turn because they can't deal with a pop 1 or pop 2, and then a banish 1 off of the Mirror Jade, you're then able to pretty much just go boom, boom. That is pretty much game. Well, it's definitely game because you've got 3,000 there, 3,000 there, 3,3 there. So you've definitely got enough power to kind of push through and finish the game off there. Obviously, you could have gone into the lock as well, the Gravekeeper's lock, not Gravekeeper's lock, sorry, Ra's Disciple lock. But that's entirely up to you on where you want to go with it. So we're going to shuffle up again, and then we'll do another test down going first, just so you can kind of see where we're going. So the idea is that the DarkWorlds are putting additional boss monster on board. They're getting additional synergy off of the Branded Opening, and then off the back of that as well, if they want to push a little bit further, you can ideally try and get the Greffer on board as well. So if I'd open up like the right hand or different routes, I could have added a Greffer to the back of that board as well, which would have been really cool, because then you're protected from stuff like Evenlies, Lightning Storms. Not that you should really be negating Lightning Storms. Most of your stuff should be going defense unless you're worried about your back row, and it just gives you enough to kind of play through. So after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, Our opening test hand going first will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's an interesting mixture of cards. Not bad cards either, actually. So, ideally with this one, you're going to want to be starting off with Branded Fusion. You've got a couple of cards you want to discard, which is absolutely fine. And I'm going to show you a nice little interaction with, off of the back of Branded Fusion with Tragedy and Ascension. Like, it's not something you want to be doing 100% of the time, but it is something that can be very, very nice and an interesting one. So we're going to activate Branded Fusion. On this one, you are, well, you can go for Albion. It doesn't really make too much of a difference because I can actually discard the Tragedy, which is really kind of cool. So we'll go for, let's go for the max potential. So we're going to send Fawn of Albaz, wherever he may be. There we go. And then you can either go for the Light Hex Seal, or you can go for the Rarlock. Now, obviously, by going for the Rarlock, it's pretty straightforward on that one. Rarlock, off the back of Tragedy, you'll find a Luba, you'll normal summon a Luba can then set you up, and then you've got the ability for the Rarlock, which is really kind of cool. Alternatively, if you go for the Light Hex Seal, you're actually going to burn through your hand a lot more, because you'll be going for something like Dragoon, or you could actually go for a Greffa through the back of it as well. It depends on how far you want to go. But the idea will be, we'll go for the Ra Disciple, because then I'll show you the lock and just how far you can go. So you'll go for your Albion. You're going to go Chainlink 1 Albion, and then Chainlink 2, there is no cost on Albion, which is absolutely fine. So then Chainlink 2, we're going to activate Ascension. Now off of Ascension, I'm actually going to, so you resolve Ascension, and funnily enough, Ascension is, you can discard through effect. So because I'm going for the Greffa Fusion, I'm actually going to be able to discard through effect, which is going to get me the Greffa Dragon, and then on a new chain, it will obviously give me the ability to trigger Tragedy. So you're going to resolve the Albion now as well. This is going to allow you to banish the materials you need. Now, I can go for a second Greffa Dragon, but there's just no point in doing that. But what you want to do here is you can actually go for the Tragedy as well. So it doubles up. So you're going to banish it as fusion material anyway, which can then get you into Quinteris or a Masquerade Dragon. That's up to you. Or you can banish off the Albion. Now, it doesn't make much of a difference to which way around you do it. Because you're going to be able to search out your Aluba that's going to get the normal summon effect as well, you don't need to worry about it too much. You can actually leave the Albion on the board, and you get to maintain your Mirror Jade effect as well. So it's entirely up to you on where you want to go. You can banish the Tragedy and get you a Masquerade to the board in place of a Mirror Jade. So if you're going like game 3, that's probably the one that I would advise going for. But you'll also get the ability to lock and Mirror Jade. So, you know, entirely up to you on where you want to go for this one. So we'll resolve this by going into, so we've got the Greffa Dragon. How do I want to make it? Do I want to make a Mirror Jade, which will have its effect, which is obviously great, or do I want to go for a Masquerade? I mean, even if I don't go for a Masquerade, you can go for a Quinteris as well. In theory as well, you've got the Graveyard to, yeah, let's go Mirror Jade, sure. So we'll banish Albaz, we'll banish Albion, we'll go into Mirror Jade. Ascension's in the Graveyard. You can trigger Tragedy's effect. Tragedy effect will give you Aluba. And then going to normal summon down the Aluba. Aluba's effect will then trigger. Now, because we're going for the branded lock, I'm actually going to go for, where are you? Expulsion. If you don't go for the branded lock, of course you do have branded in red, because there is Tragedy in the Graveyard as well for that. That's entirely up to you. You can also bring back your Albaz, and the Albaz, if your opponent again puts a monster on the board that is quite threatening, you can use that as well. So we're then going to use the Ascension effect, which will allow me to discard the Snow, and then add the Ascension back so I can set the Ascension. I'm then going to trigger Snow's effect. Now at this point it's entirely up to you on what you want to search. Everything, because you've only got the one card in hand, is going to be for a follow-up, or is going to be for the discard off of the back of Greffa. So off the back of Greffa, I'm actually going to want to go for, where are you? I'm going to go for a Silver, because then I've got the ability to hand loop my opponent. So if they do anything, I'm basically going to burn away some of their resource. There we go. So we'll shuffle that up and put it there. So then what you do with this board is you're not going to be triggering anything in the end phase, but you pass your opponent. You've then got the ability of activating Expulsion. Expulsion can bring back any of your level 4 or lowers, but it will require you to trigger off the Mirror Jade, or tribute off the Mirror Jade. I mean, technically, I could also trigger off the Grepher Dragon. So this is where it's going to get a little bit cool. Is because I've got the second Ascension, I don't really mind. So what we'll do is we'll actually activate Expulsion. We'll tribute off the Grepher. I believe it needs to go by opponent's card effect. If it's fusion on card and its owner's control leaves the field by an opponent's card. Yeah, that's sad. It would be really cool if it was just by effect. Anyway, so you activate Expulsion. You're going to target 2 non-fusions in the graveyard. So we'll target Ra. We'll give that to our opponent. I'm actually going to leave the Tragedy in the graveyard, and I'm actually going to bring back the Snow. So I've used Expulsion. My opponent can't tribute, they can't special, they're pretty much locked and done. Just to guarantee my my plays, I'm actually going to activate Ascension. Ascension will banish the Grepher and the Tragedy. And this will then bring me back the Grepher. Now obviously I didn't use the first one's effect, so I now have a fresh one that I can use anyway. By doing so, I can then trigger the Tragedy effect. Tragedy will then be able to search me out a follow-up for the next turn. So I can go for like a Luba, which will probably be the best thing to do, because I'm not going to be normal summoning my Silver. The only thing I have lost is by banishing the Grepher, I don't have a way of getting the Snow back to the hand, but that's not that big of an issue either. So with a board like this, they can't normal, they can't special. I've also got the ability of using Ascension again the next turn, so that will guarantee to give me back the Silver. So let's play through their turn, okay? So let's go to their end phase. In their end phase, I can then activate Mirror Jade. This will just set me up with a fusion play. So I'm actually going to send Albal and Artis on this one. We'll banish the Ra. This will then, in the end phase, allow me to trigger the Albal and Artis effect. So this will give me a branded card. Let's go for... I'm going to go for branded in red. Obviously, I don't have a target yet until I put a Luba in the graveyard. Actually, I don't want to go branded in red. Let's think smart on this one. Branded opening could be pretty cool, actually. But let's go branded fusion. Let's play it smart. I mean, I can get the second one anyway. It doesn't make too much of a difference because I've got the Aluba. So we'll draw for turn. Edgent Chain, Broken. Okay, so let's see what we're doing with in the graveyard. So we've got an Ascension, which is absolutely fine. So Ascension can trigger off Silver. Mirror Jade has used her effect, or its effect, so now it's all about clearing some space off, which isn't an issue. I need to discard a DarkWorld, which is a bit of a shame. If this would let me discard DarkWorld. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you can discard any monster, broken. Aluba. I mean, Aluba's going to need me to put Albaz in the graveyard. I mean, it's not a big issue because like just switching this to attack can just ultimately end the game. So I can use Ascension. We'll discard. We'll add the Silver back to the board. The only issue you now have is like you can activate Branded Fusion still, because I can activate that. I can send an Albaz. You know, I'm just going to get greedy. What? I don't even know why I'm holding this back. So we'll send Albaz and we'll send Light Hexil. Why even worry, bro? Put Albion up here. Banish the Albion. Banish the Light Hexil. Dragoon. And then just go woof. One punch. Let's go. There are other ways. Like, so what I could do here is just to overextend a little bit. So, where's the first Albion? There we go. So, rather than going into Albion, there we go, do it that way. Like Hexil. So Albion would then need to banish from the board. So let's banish these two. And let's go into Quintiris. There we go, Quintiris. And then what you do here is you can actually activate Ascension, banish the Light Hexil and a Dark. So let's banish Albalanatus. So Dark is Grepher. And that goes into... Oh, I've already gone through... Have I gone through... Oh, I went through both the Greffers. Ignore that completely. Do I still have... I mean, what would then have been... Sorry, this is me overthinking it. Is... What have we got? I mean, I've still got Albaz, haven't I? So I need to keep this around. I mean, this is just me getting greedy, so you can just ignore all of that. I don't even need to activate Ascension. Just swinging for game there. That was just me overthinking it and overcomplicating it of exactly how many fusions I've gone through. But yeah, you can kind of see that the idea is that you kind of playing around with 2 of the fusion monsters. You're trying to control the board a little bit better and a little bit more. The synergy kind of comes in the form of stuff like the Patchwork Engine or like the Frightfur Chain. And then it also comes into play with Branded Opening. Branded Opening is like your god card in this deck because it just unlocks like that plus like a DarkWorld just gives you so much. As long as it's the right DarkWorld, it just gives you so much potential. So there's loads of different variations of that one. Anyway, after another decent shuffle, we'll now start going second, and I'll try not to overcomplicate it because, you know, that's just getting greedy. So after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our first test hand going second will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 is Rainbow. Okay, so we're going to struggle a little bit playing through as many forms of interruption as possible, but you do have ways of doing it. Now, the Branded Red is the card like you don't want in this hand, but I still have the Genta hand loop combo that I need anyway, so... not Genta, Genta. Genta will search out Gates of the DarkWorld. You'll then activate Gates of the DarkWorld. You'll use this effect to banish the Genta and discard the Rainbow. I could, if I wanted to, discard the Chain, because then that would give me Patchwork and everything else. So I've got ways to play around it. I could also discard the Snow. Actually, yeah, let's discard the Snow. We're going to do this a little bit differently. So Genta, resolve the gate first. Draw a card. Okay. Genta, Chain Link 1, Snow, Chain Link 2, because Snow is more important. For Snow... Someone questioned this, and I was like, what, are you mad? Why would you not play Ascension Archives in this? I was like, Archives is so good, because all you need to do is get a DarkWorld to the board, which is actually really easy with Genta, and then you start discarding your cards. Like, it's mad. So I'll show you why Archives is so good. We're going to activate the Archives. We're going to use Archives effect to boost the Genta, discarding the Rainbow. Rainbow effect Chain Link 1, Archives is Chain Link 2, meaning that I can discard the card I search for a Rainbow. So Rainbow's effect will resolve. Rainbow can either get me to a Grepher, which will help me trying to pop some cards, or I can go for a Snow. I'm going to go for the Grepher because the Grepher will let me pop some cards. So we'll shuffle that up. And then as effect, discard the Grepher, draw 2 cards. Oh, hello. Broken on Branded Fusion. Effective Grepher is mandatory to pop 1 card our opponent controls, so we'll use a dice just to kind of show the cards we've picked apart. You've then got the ability to loop your hand advantage, so we'll put Genta back to the hand for Rainbow, Rainbow back to the hand for Grepher. I've now got a very nice boss monster on the board. I'm then going to use Genta's effect again, and this is going to allow me to get the second gate. Right, there we go. Activate the second gate. Use the second gate's effect. Banish the Genta. Like, okay, not the... I mean, I could have kept the Genta in there and then I could have revived it the next turn, but I'm going to push for OTK. So discard the Genta, and then let's discard... I suppose Rainbow. Let's discard the Rainbow. Draw a random card, Genta again. Effective Rainbow. This will then search me out a level 5 or higher. So because I'm going aggression, I'm just going to go for a second Grepher. So there we go. That's my second Grepher in hand. Shuffle this up. Keep in mind we haven't even conducted a normal summon yet. I still have Edge Imp Chain that can push me for a fusion play as well. There we go. So what have we got? We got Gate and we got Snow. Absolutely fine. We're then going to use Ascension just to protect all my plays going forward. We'll discard the Grepher, we'll discard the Snow. This will then allow me to get into the Grepher Dragon. Grepher effect will then pop the second card. Snow's effect will then trigger to search me out another DarkWorld. So on this one, what have I got? I can actually search for a Branded Opening off of a Luba, which is absolutely fine, because then that would trigger another DarkWorld effect. So... did I... yeah, because I've got the Grepher, didn't I? So let's go for... I don't want a second Ascension. I could go Charge into the DarkWorld that I've added in. Yeah, let's go Charge into the DarkWorld. So just discard a Fiend. Yeah, discard a Fiend. Fine, this is going to be funny. So I've done this without even using Branded Fusion or anything like that. I still have Ascension's effect in the graveyard that I can add it back to, but I don't want to do that yet until I can get a a DarkWorld on the board, which I can do now with Charge into Darkness. So we're going to activate Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is then going to send Fawn of Albaz. And in this scenario, because I'm going aggressive, we're going to send... Where are you? Tragedy. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard. So we'll go into Lubellion. Lubellion's effect will discard the chain. Tragedy will chain link 2, so Tragedy will search me out on a Luba. Could go for Adlerbiton actually. I mean, Adlerbiton is so much more aggressive, but I'm going to go for a Luba just to show you the synergies between the two. Chain's effect will then trigger, well, let's resolve Lubellion first. So Lubellion will spin itself back and Fawn of Albaz, because again, I'm just going aggression. That's all I'm doing. Fawn of Albaz goes back. We go into Mirror Jade. We then use Edimp Chain's effect. Edimp Chain will then search me out. Well, it would ultimately end up getting me Poly and another chain. So Patchwork, activate Patchwork, gets me Poly and Chain. Oh no, I've already got the second chain in hand. Ah, no. That's disappointing. That's really disappointing. Oh well. Sometimes it happens. Still going to deck fin anyway. I'm going to normal summon the Aluba. Now it's entirely up to you on where you want to take your Aluba. I'm going to use Aluba's effect, and I don't really have a DarkWorld in the hand that I want it to trigger, so I suppose rather than going for Branded Opening, I'm actually going to go for the Despian Theatre. Now obviously the reason to go for Theatre is because I've got other fusion plays to make basically. And there are ways of reducing my opponent's attack to 0 so I can just like punch all over them. So we're going to activate the Theatre. Oh, there we go, that way around. Use Theatre's effect to fuse. Now I'm going to use Greffa and Aluba. And this is going to get me into Quintarius. Quintarius will then use his effect, so all monsters on my opponent's field are going down to 0. I've already conducted a normal summon, which is absolutely fine because of the introduction of Charge into the DarkWorld. So massive shout out for that recommendation. So we're going to use Charge into DarkWorld. We will target Snow, bring Snow to the board, and discard a Fiend. So we'll discard the second chain. We'll then use this to add Snow back to hand for Rainbow, Rainbow back to hand for Greffa. And then if that wasn't enough, because, you know, it never is, we'll activate Branded in red. We'll target, well, it doesn't really matter, target Aluba. Use Aluba plus Genta plus Greffa. I mean, this is just getting greedy. Again, I don't need to do this. I did say I wasn't going to get greedy, but we're going to get greedy. Then Chimera to draw 2. Albaz. Okay. But that's pretty much game. Like, your opponent's cards are all on 0, and you've got 25, 32, 3k, 3-3. I haven't used either of these effects either. So if I really need to, I can, and then that'll clear off more cards as I want to, and as I go. So that aggression was mad, and that hand wasn't the best. Like 2 chains, I could have had more cards in my hand if I didn't have 2 chains in the hand. What the actual messy. So we're now going to move into our final test hand, go in second, and then I'll just basically show you like the ideal cards and ways to do it. It's basically looking at 2 different ways of triggering DarkWorld cards, basically. So after our final shuffle and our final cut, our last test hand going second will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the 6th card is Archives. Again, I can't understand why people don't like Archives. I think it's actually a really good card. Okay, so you've got a couple of different options here. We've got ways of triggering our DarkWorlds, which is great. And then the Branded Opening. So this is where the Branded Opening is such a good bridge. And, funnily enough, actually, if you ignore these 3 cards here, this was the card combo I was going to show you at the end anyway. So I'll actually go through this combo, and then I'll show you how, well, these don't really add too much to it. Like, the Essential will just give me more draws. So you can activate the Genta. The Genta would search you out your gate, which you already have, but, you know, we play 2 because broken. You then activate the gate, you banish the Genta, you discard the Rainbow. Rainbow's effect will then trigger to give you a level 5 or higher. Now, because we're going second, I'd actually go for the Greffer. But if we weren't going second, well, I've got to shuffle up first, actually. I've rushed ahead a step. Let's draw a card. So obviously in the combo, this will be a random card, doesn't make much of a difference. Second Genta is what it is. You then trigger the Rainbow effect. So Rainbow will then search you out at level 5 or higher. Now, in this scenario, because we're going second, you can go for Greffer to pop a card. But I'm actually going to go for Silver just to get board presence, basically. And then that's how you can kind of extend further. So then what you do is you return this to the hand for the Rainbow. You would in theory then activate the Genta again to search you out the second gate of the DarkWorld. But in this scenario, because you already got the gate, so the idea would be is you discard the Genta, you search out the gate, you activate the gate, you banish that, you search out another one. And in that one, that you would then search out the Greffer. So now we're going to start adding all these cards to our hand, because now look at our hand, we've +1 already. So you activate the second gate. I'm actually going to activate the archives using this hand specifically. We're going to activate the patchwork just so that I don't draw into poly and chain, because then at that point they're not really useful for me. Still haven't even used branded opening yet, which is broken. You then use gate. Oh no, we ain't got a target in the graveyard. Ignore that little bit there. Now you need to use branded opening. So with branded opening, what have I got? Silver and chain. Yeah, branded opening, we'll discard the silver. Silver would, of course, summon. The branded opening will special out Aluba. Aluba's effect will search. Now, obviously, we don't have it, so you're going for the branded fusion. So a new no-brainer on that one, I'm afraid. And then what you can do here is you can actually activate Poly, use Genta and Aluba. Could go for Quinteris. We'll go for Quinteris because I don't imagine these cards are going to stay on the board anyway. You can then activate the second gates effect. So the second gates effect is going to... actually no, I'm going to wait. What am I doing? Activate Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion will then send Albaz. And in this scenario, I'm actually going to send Greffer. So... no. Send Greffer. Oh, hello. Let's move the graveyard into view a little bit more. There you go. So send the Greffer. We go into Lubellion. Lubellion's effect will discard. We'll discard the chain. And then we will spin back. What have we got here? Yeah, fine. Spin back the Albaz. Spin back the Lubellion. It's very simple. Mirror Jade. Put that into the extra monster zone just so it's out of the way. There you go. I'll move that back. Okay, and then what we want to do here is we're going to use the effect of Greffer to return Rainbow to the hand. Or do I want to do that? No. So activate Quinteris' effect now to reduce everything to 0. Then return Rainbow to the hand. There we go. Then activate the Gates effect. So the Gate effect will then banish the Genta from the graveyard. And we'll discard Rainbow to draw a random card. This will then trigger the archives to let me discard and draw, while also triggering the Rainbow. So the Rainbow will then search. I'm going to put a dice, actually, on Silver, just so that I remember it's on 0. You would then search out... I mean, Silver's the best one, because the best Silver will then give you board presence. No, I can get Greffer. What am I talking about? So shuffle those up. You then resolve archives. So you discard the Greffer, you draw 2. Greffer's effect will then... Why? I got double Albaz last time. What the hell? Greffer's effect will then trigger to pop a card our opponent controls. We then return Silver to the hand for Greffer. Well, I mean, I probably should have done that better. So Rainbow first for Silver, and then Greffer back to the hand for that. And then that's pretty much your end board there. So you've got decent power on board. Everything your opponent controls is now 0 attack. And then you basically punch in for an OTK. So again, there's ways to do this. It really does just come down to what your end goal is, how good your draws are, and then just other ways around it. Anyway, I hope you found this video informative, in-depth, and kind of show you the ins and outs. I kind of got in this test hand the combo that I wanted to show you anyway, so I don't need to do that again, unless you guys really want to see it, and then I'll do designated combos for this deck as well. But as absolutely always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.